The night itself is not frightening. What's truly terrifying is that familiar smile you see in the darkness. The truth always reveals itself under the quiet glow of the lamp. Welcome to HL Whispers. Do you know, real demons don't always wear hideous faces. They don't appear suddenly from the darkness cloaked in black robes. Instead, they silently hide by your side, disguised as the people most familiar and dear to you. The scariest thing is not the demons from legends, but often the very person you trust most, the one you rely on the most. I once thought I was smart, that I could always read people accurately and would never be deceived. But the cruel truth woke me up. I had already fallen into the trap they set long before I realized it. By the time I finally noticed, I was nothing more than a pawn on their board. The truly dangerous people don't use violence or threats to frighten you. They choose another way. Through gentle smiles, caring voices, making you slowly let down your guard and willingly open the door. And when you finally realize what's happening, it's often too late to turn back. Today, I'm going to reveal 5 types of people who are more terrifying than demons. If you stay with me until the end, you'll understand how to protect yourself and never again be controlled or manipulated by them. If you like today's topic, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I'll continue to bring you genuine and powerful content, guarding your light in the darkness. Do you usually join What's groups? I did, because my son invited me into one. He told me it was a local community group. I didn't think much of it, so I stayed. At first, the conversations were all about everyday life. Health tips, local news, household tricks. Everything felt normal, so I lowered my guard and thought it was safe. But before long, the topics began to change. Someone asked, "Have you applied for the government subsidy yet?" Another said, "This investment project is really profitable." Some even urged, "Hurry up, spots are limited." And others added, "I was hesitant at first too, but after I tried it, I realized it's really great." By this point, maybe you'd already feel uneasy. But when you see everyone in the group participating so enthusiastically, one thought easily creeps in. If I'm the only one not joining, won't I miss out? That was exactly the thought that made me click apply, the result within just a few days. I was scammed out of $2,000. Cases like this are becoming more and more common. Scammers no longer rely solely on phone calls. They've shifted their focus to What's groups. What's worse, their disguises are seamless. They use group interactions to gradually break down your defenses until you walk straight into their carefully prepared trap end. And that is exactly how most What scams happen. First, they disguise themselves as trustworthy people. Scammers never talk about money right away. Instead, they patiently spend 6 months, even a year inside a What's groups, building an atmosphere of credibility. The group is filled with fake victims and fake successful investors. Some claim to be government officials, others pose as financial experts. Their profile pictures look professional. Their words are polite and convincing, slowly making you lower your guard second. They set traps with Bitcoin, overseas stocks, and futures investments. This is one of the most common scams today. They'll say things like, "Bitcoin is at its best buying point right now. Experts predict a huge surge." Or, "Overseas stocks are guaranteed profit. I can help you make money." Some even promise, with just a small investment, you can earn 30% in a single day. But the reality is completely different. These so-called Bitcoin investments are all fake platforms. Once you transfer your money in, there's no way to withdraw it. They'll forge transaction records to make you believe you're making profits, luring you into investing more and more. The overseas stock and futures scams follow the same playbook. They introduce so-called overseas brokers and international trading platforms to make you think it's all legitimate. At first, you might even be able to withdraw a little interest. But once your investment grows larger, the outcome is always the same. You lose everything. When you try to withdraw, they'll either demand extra fees or deposits, or they'll simply shut down the account and vanish. Third, they impersonate certified experts. Some claim to be financial gurus who've made hundreds of millions through investments. They boast about their so-called VIP groups, where only the most authoritative and valuable inside information is shared, gradually luring you in. They might help you make a small profit in the free group first, then funnel you toward paid courses or straight into direct investments. But almost without exception, these recommendations are scams. Fourth, they create urgency and pressure you to act immediately. Today is your last chance. If you miss this, you'll regret it forever. Everyone else has already joined. Only you are left. Sir, if you don't join now, don't blame us for not reminding you later. These familiar lines are some of the most common tactics scammers use in What's groups. Fifth, they don't give you time to think. You must pay right now. If you wait, it'll be too late. I've already invested. What are you still hesitating for? Stop wasting time. When bombarded with these words, people's judgment often collapses in an instant, especially when they see others in the group already participating. The fear of being the only outsider makes them give in. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi once said, "When in doubt, watch how things change." It means that when something is uncertain, you must stay skeptical and calm. But in reality, we often do the opposite. If others believe it, I believe it too. And in that very moment, the scammer's trap snaps shut. Let's look at some real-life cases. A woman in her 50s recalled, "My sister pulled me into a group chat at first. It was just about community news and daily tips. Everything seemed perfectly normal, but soon people in the group started saying, 'This investment project is guaranteed profit.' Watching everyone else join in, I was afraid of missing out. In the end, I lost all my savings." Another victim in her 60s shared, "Simone posted a link in the group to apply for a government subsidy. The page looked almost identical to the official website. Without thinking much, I filled in my information. A few days later, all the money in my bank account was gone. Never assume this could never happen to me. What scammers are best at is seizing that tiny moment when we let down our guard. So what should we do? Here are some key tips. The moment money becomes a topic in a group chat, leave immediately. Phrases like limited time offer, insider information, confidential channel are almost always scams. Always verify government subsidies or investment information directly on official websites. Don't believe so, called success stories. Most of them are fabricated. Before making any decision, give yourself at least an hour to think it over, and if possible, discuss it with family. As French philosopher Montaigne once said, the most reliable defense is a clear and rational mind. Scammers strike precisely at the moment when reason fails. A single careless slip can bring a lifetime of regret. Please keep these lessons in mind. Don't let tragedy strike you or your family. Now let's talk about the second type of person who is even scarier than demons. Those who manipulate you step by step. You've probably heard this phrase before, "I'm only doing this for your own good." Grace Zhang, in her 60s, had known her friend Mary Lee for more than 30 years. In Grace's eyes, Mary had always been someone trustworthy. Mary never forced anything. Instead, she spoke in a gentle, caring tone, sharing so-called good news, making Grace feel she was truly being looked after. "You're too kind. That's why people take advantage of you. Everyone else is using you. You need to wise up. Don't worry with me around. Your life will only get better." These words reassured Grace. She believed Mary was the one person who truly cared about her. Until one day, Mary recommended an insurance policy. "Buy this, and your retirement will be secure. I know someone at the company. This product is absolutely reliable." Grace didn't really want to, but Mary's tone suddenly turned cold. "I'm only telling you this for your own good. If you treat me this way, it really breaks my heart. We've been friends for 30 years, and you don't trust me." Those words panicked Grace. She didn't want to be the kind of person who doubts her friend. Feeling guilty, she gave in. "All right, since you're recommending it, I'll buy it." A few years later, Mary came back with another proposal. "The stock market is really hot right now. This is insider information. Most people can't get it. I'm only telling you." Grace hesitated again and again, but she feared disappointing her friend. In the end, she put her savings into it. Months later, the stock market crashed, and Grace lost most of her assets. But Mary was the first to speak. "Oh well, I lost money too. That's just how investing works." At that moment, Grace finally woke up. She realized she hadn't invested out of genuine trust in her friend. She simply lacked the courage to say no, and that weakness led her step by step into the abyss. Maybe you felt this too. Every time you make a decision, you unconsciously check someone else's reaction. When you disagree, you feel guilty. When you have a different opinion, you still compromise. If this pattern keeps repeating, it means one thing: you are being controlled. They appear to be looking out for you, planning for your future. But in reality, they're stripping away your right to choose, leading you straight into the ending they designed. They often say things like, "I just want what's best for you, so this is the right way. You don't need to stress, just follow along." Honestly, this is the smartest choice, isn't it? When you're surrounded by words like these, it's easy to believe you're making a decision. But in truth, you're only following their hints, and the so-called choice was already set up by them. First, they use guilt to pressure you. "I'm only saying this for your own good. Why are you always so negative? You're making me feel bad too. If I don't look out for you, who else will?" Hearing this repeatedly creates the illusion, "I can't let this person down." And little by little, you begin to compromise, surrendering to their will, even if it goes against your own heart's second. They use kindness to trap you. At first, they seem caring, offering advice, helping solve problems, even listening patiently when you're upset. But over time, that kindness changes its tone. "I've helped you so much. How can you treat me this way? If it were me, I'd never do that to you." These words stir up guilt. You become afraid to refuse, afraid of disappointing them, and gradually you find yourself trapped in the cage they've built. How to break free from manipulation? Start by asking yourself one key question: do I truly want this? Or am I being pushed into it? Distinguish between a genuine choice and one made to please someone else. If you feel uneasy deep down, chances are it's not really your decision. Remember, saying no does not equal cruelty. When faced with requests, you can respond, "Sorry, I can't help with this one." You don't need to carry the entire burden yourself. Manipulators will say, "I helped you back then, can't you do something for me now?" But receiving help doesn't mean carrying a lifetime of debt. You can answer, "I truly appreciated your help, but this is something I'll decide for myself." This shows gratitude while still holding your boundaries. And when they say, "This is for your own good," you can reply, "Thank you for caring, but the decision is mine." Or in a more neutral tone, "I understand your perspective, but I'll think about it." This avoids direct conflict while keeping your boundaries clear. As French philosopher Rousseau once said, "When you hand your freedom over to another, all you receive are chains." What starts as small acts of compliance can eventually lead to a life controlled by someone else. That's when you must stop and re-examine the relationship. Remember, no one has the right to control you. Only choices you make yourself are truly free choices. Now, let's move on to the next type. Even scarier than demons are those who slowly eat away at you bit by bit. Have you ever heard excuses like these? "I forgot my wallet today." "Bro, I left my money at home. Can you cover me? I'll pay you back later." David Lee had worked with his colleague Ben Wang for 5 years. They weren't especially close, but they often had lunch together, and sometimes shared a drink after work. One day, they went out for lunch as usual. When it came time to pay, Ben suddenly said, "Oh man, I forgot my wallet at home. Can you cover me? I'll transfer the money to you later." David didn't think twice. It was just 90 yuan for lunch. Anyon can forget their wallet, so he agreed cheerfully, "Sure, just send it to me later." But that night, no transfer came, David thought. He's probably busy. He'll remember tomorrow. Yet days passed, and Ben never brought it up. David felt uneasy, but it seemed awkward to press him over such a small amount. So he let it go. But it wasn't the last time. Another day, Ben said, "Hey man, can I borrow your tripod? I want to take some family photos this weekend." David didn't hesitate and lent it to him. 1 week passed. Then 2, the tripod never came back. Every time David asked, Ben had another excuse. "Oh, I forgot. Next time for sure. I packed it in my bag yesterday but left it at home again. I just need it this week. I'll return it after." Excuse after excuse, until David suddenly realized his own belongings had somehow become Ben's. Looking back, it all began with small favors, a meal here, a borrowed item there. But as the requests piled up, it snowballed into something much bigger. And the most disheartening part, people like this almost never apologize. Instead, they brush it off lightly. "Sorry, I was too busy and forgot." "Don't you forget things sometimes too? Come on, it's just a small matter." Even though they're the ones in the wrong, they twist things until David felt like he was the one being petty. So what are the common traits of this type of person first? They always start with the smallest things. They'll borrow a little money or make a trivial request. Because it seems minor, it's hard for you to refuse second. They never think they owe you anything in their eyes. "Come on, this is such a small thing. No need to keep score." Or, "We're such good friends. Why be so distant?" With just a few words, they make you feel embarrassed to bring it up again. Third, once they open that door, they'll keep repeating it. Borrow once, ask for you to cover once, ask for a favor once. After many times, you realize you've always been the one losing out fourth. They often test the waters first. For example, "Where did you buy that thing? Looks nice." Or, "I'm kind of tight on cash these days. How about you cover lunch for a while? I'll treat you later." And they'll usually add, "Just kidding." But over time, you realize those jokes eventually become real requests. So how do you deal with people like this? First, draw a clear boundary. "You borrowed my tripod the other day. This week you really need to return it. That money from last time. When can you pay me back?" If you don't say it, they'll keep pretending they forgot. Second, whenever money or possessions are involved, always keep it clear. "I'll cover this time, but next time, it's your turn. We agreed to split the bill, so each of us pays our share." No matter how small the amount, boundaries must be set. Third, if they act uncomfortable or even get angry because of this, then the relationship isn't worth keeping. When you make a reasonable request, and instead of apologizing they accuse you of being petty, that's the kind of person who will never change. As the French thinker Rousseau once said, "The petty thief gets punished, but the great thief becomes a king." What starts as a tiny loss, if it piles up, can turn into damage you cannot ignore in your life. Think about it. Do you have someone like this around you? Always borrowing but never returning, always letting you pay first, but never taking the initiative, always taking, but never giving yet, acting like it's perfectly justified. A few casual words from them, and it's always you who pays the price. So now it's time to decide, will you keep swallowing your pride, losing again and again, or will you set firm boundaries and refuse to be drained? Those hidden takers behind a friendly face. It's time to cut them off completely. Now, let's talk about the fourth type of person, more terrifying than a devil. They are the ones who stab directly at your most vulnerable spot. Do you know someone like this? Someone who keeps repeating, "Life is too hard for me. There's no hope for me anymore." Mary Zhang in her 60s receives the same phone call almost every day. The caller is her friend of more than 20 years, Anna Liu. "Mary, why is my life so miserable? My kids don't listen. My husband always comes home late. When will I ever be happy?" At first, Mary was full of sympathy. She patiently listened and even comforted her. "It's true, you've had it rough. Don't worry, I'm here. You can always talk to me." For months, Mary listened to the same complaints, sometimes even rearranging her schedule to keep Anna company, but nothing ever changed in Anna's situation. Instead, she added new complaints. "You're so lucky. Your kids are thoughtful, your husband reliable. But me, I've got nothing." At first, Mary thought it was just her friend being emotional, but gradually she realized that every time they talked, she herself felt drained and depressed. When she tried to share her own troubles, Anna cut her off. "Don't talk about that, my problems are worse." When she shared good news, Anna wouldn't congratulate her. Instead, she'd say bitterly, "You're so lucky. I've never had that in my whole life. Why is it that good things never happen to me?" That's when Mary finally woke up. Anna wasn't looking for comfort or solutions. She was using her misfortunes to gain attention, sympathy, and even guilt from others. What Mary thought was mutual support was, in reality, one-sided emotional draining. Have you ever met people like this? They constantly wear misery on their sleeve. "My life is unbearable. I have no hope. Only you understand me." At first, you feel compassion and want to accompany them, but slowly, you find yourself trapped in their negative energy. Worse still, no matter what advice you give, they reject it. "Why not try this?" "No, I can't." "How about another approach?" "It won't work. I've tried." What they really need isn't a solution, but to maintain their unhappy state, because only then can they continue to draw attention and comfort. Remember this: if someone is always using pain to bind you, you must set boundaries in time. A true friend brings you strength, not a constant drag into despair. David Lin, in his early 60s, lives in the same community as his old friend James Chen. They've known each other for decades and often run into each other. But James is always full of complaints. "My kids never care about me. My wife is always nagging. I worked hard all my life. Was it all for this kind of life?" At first, David felt sympathy, patiently listened, and comforted him. "You've worked so hard. Don't be too upset." But over time, David noticed that James's complaints never changed every time he offered advice. "James, maybe try handling it differently?" The response was always, "That's impossible. It won't work. I've tried." Gradually, David began to feel heavy after every conversation, even dreading picking up James's calls. Zone day, David went on a family trip. That day, he didn't answer James's call, choosing instead to enjoy time with his loved ones. The next morning, James called back, his tone full of blame. "Why didn't you answer yesterday? Don't you care about me anymore?" At that moment, David realized the truth. This wasn't ordinary friendship anymore. It was emotional manipulation and constant draining. So how can we handle relationships that constantly drain our energy? First, set clear boundaries. Say it up front. "I can only talk for half an hour today." Make your limits clear from the start. Second, redirect the conversation. If the other person won't stop complaining, gently remind them. "Let's switch to something lighter." Third, don't carry all their problems on your shoulders. When they reject every suggestion, the best response is, then go with what you feel is best. Step back appropriately, so you don't get trapped in endless exhaustion. Fourth, don't treat someone else's emotions as your personal responsibility. When you find yourself wondering, am I helping them or just being used? That's the time to pause and re-examine the relationship. As the Qing dynasty thinker Wang Fuji once said, "One person's sorrow can swallow the joy of 10 compassion, when excessive turns into poison." Yes, we can listen. We can empathize, but we must never allow someone else's negativity to slowly consume our own lives. In the end, you must make a choice. Will you keep carrying the weight of another's misfortune, or will you bravely draw the line and guard your own peace? Now, let's talk about the fifth type of person, more frightening than a devil. They don't threaten you openly. Instead, they wear a gentle face while slowly taking control. Have you heard these words before? "I'm the only one who truly cares about you. Without me, you can't do anything. If it weren't for me, you'd be finished already." On the surface, These sound like concern. In reality, they're a form of control. They turn the relationship into shackles, quietly breaking down your confidence, stripping away your independence, until you depend entirely on them. This is the story of Susan Lin. She lived with her husband, David Chen, for more than 30 years. To outsiders, David looked like a responsible man. But at home, he often said, "You can't even manage money. How would you survive without me? You're useless on your own. Without me, you're nothing." At first, Susan thought these were just casual complaints, but over time, she realized that she had unknowingly become someone who couldn't make decisions without her husband. The family's finances were fully in his control. She had to rely on pocket money to live. Whenever she voiced an opinion, she was met with ridicule. "What do you know? Just follow my way." Eventually, Susan realized the truth. What her husband wanted wasn't her happiness. It was her obedience. Have you ever experienced something similar? These people don't shout or threaten, but they create constant psychological pressure, making you doubt yourself. Until one day you surrender your freedom on your own. There are 3 common tactics manipulators often use. First, creating dependence. "Without me, can you really manage?" Through repeated hints, they make you feel like you can't survive without them. Second, instilling guilt. "I've sacrificed so much for you. How could you treat me like this?" Whenever you try to be independent, they use guilt to hold you back. Third, using relationships as leverage. "Would you treat your parents this way? Aren't friends supposed to help each other?" Because the bond feels hard to cut, you end up compromising again and again. As the philosopher Nietzsche once said, "Do not love those who imprison you." Yes, relationships matter. But if a relationship takes away your freedom, it is no longer healthy. No relationship should stand above your happiness. True independence is what manipulators fear the most. Learn to set boundaries. Learn to pause before giving in to emotional blackmail and say to yourself, "This is my decision." Or, "Thank you for your concern, but I'll do it my way." A single firm statement can greatly weaken their control. Now is the time to make a choice. Will you keep living under someone else's control? Or will you courageously defend your freedom? Those manipulators wearing the mask of kindness. It's time to cut them off for good today. We talked about 5 types of people more frightening than demons. Known, the scammers in group chats. They gain your trust through casual conversation, then trick you when the moment is right too. The ones who say, "I'm doing this for your own good." On the surface, they seem caring, but little by little, they take away your choices. 3, the ones who start by taking small advantages. Borrowing a little, asking you to pay once until you realize the losses are far greater than you imagined. 4, the ones who weaponize their pain. They keep sharing their misfortunes, drowning you in negativity, making you feel like comforting them is your duty. 5, the ones who control you in the name of caring. They bind you with relationships and strip away your freedom with guilt. Remember, it's extremely hard to change such people on your own. They know human weaknesses too well. If you've ever been hurt by them, it is not your fault, and you should never blame yourself. What matters is recognizing their patterns in time and bravely drawing clear boundaries. May the demons around you fade away, replaced by happiness and laughter. After hearing today's message, did it remind you of past experiences? Feel free to share your story in the comments. Your words might become the reminder and strength someone else desperately needs. If you found this content helpful, please share it with those around you. And don't forget to like and subscribe so together we can protect our most precious relationships. May today's companionship bring you one step closer to true happiness. This is HL Whispers, and may my voice always leave a light for you in the darkness.